Facile formulas, catchy slogans, 10-step programs, and quick fixes too often dominate today's management training programs. But in organizations, as in all of life, human behavior is seldom predictable, and business dilemmas do not easily lend themselves to gimmicks or simplistic answers. In Management of the Absurd, psychologist, educator, and former CEO Richard Farson presents a series of management paradoxes designed to challenge conventional wisdom and encourage managers to re-examine their assumptions about effective leadership. This is Ron. Today is Thursday, October 5th. Welcome to Story Time. Today, Chapter 12, Praising People Does Not Motivate Them. I have long questioned the cherished idea that people work better after being praised. I realize that here I am in unfriendly territory because praise is perhaps the most widely used and thoroughly endorsed of all human relations techniques. Parents, managers, psychologists, teachers, everyone seems to believe in its value as a motivational tool, a reward, a way to establish good relationships. We value it because we have all experienced the thrill of discovering that someone we respect thinks highly of us. But I doubt that praise, when consciously employed as a management technique, always accomplishes what we think it does. Not that it does not have valuable functions, of which we are largely unaware, but I think our beliefs about its motivational value need closer scrutiny. Consider the following. Praise may, in fact, be perceived as threatening. Watch how people respond to praise. Don't they often react with discomfort or uneasiness? A very common response is a vague denial or derogation. I really can't take credit for it, or you're just saying that. Praise a house or garden and its owner may hasten to point out its defects. Praise an employee for a project and that person is sometimes quick to play down his or her role in it. The defensiveness is compounded, of course, when the praise is unearned or undeserved. People react defensively because in praise there can be threat. After all, praise is an evaluation, and to be evaluated, to be judged, usually makes us uncomfortable, even if the evaluation is positive. Additionally, when you praise people, you are often trying to motivate them, to move them in a certain direction, to change them. The threat of change is nearly always disquieting. Instead of reassuring people about their worth, praise may be a way of gaining status over them. Giving praise establishes the fact that you are in a position to sit in judgment. A manager evaluating an employee needs to be sensitive to this. Even if the evaluation is positive, the employee can wind up feeling diminished if it seems the manager is merely reinforcing his or her status. Interestingly, when the work of a high-status person is praised by a low-status person, it is often seen as presumptuous or even insulting. If an ordinary person were to have told Picasso, "You're a very good painter," that compliment would not likely have been particularly well received. In order to be acceptable, the praise must be given in a way that respects the status difference. I love your painting. Praise may constrict creativity rather than free it. Some actions by managers are intended as rewards, like salaries and benefits, but because the employee has come to take them for granted, they no longer function as rewards. That can also be true with praise. When we demand it, and it is routinely given, it no longer serves to motivate us. What really does release creativity and promote achievement is when a manager takes the time to get involved in the employee's work, learning what direction the work is taking, the problems and possibilities it presents, the way the employee is dealing with the task. But involvement is demanding and time-consuming, which probably explains why many managers resort to praise as a substitute, hoping that it will accomplish the same results. Praise can come to be associated mainly with criticism. This happens when we use praise to sugarcoat blame or employ the sandwich technique, whereby praise is followed by reproof when repeated. "I'm very pleased with your work, Fred," says the boss. "You're really getting the work out, but..." Fred then hears the unhappy part of the story, the reprimand. The boss finishes up with, "Keep up the fine work," and Fred is shuttled out without quite knowing what hit him. This is also a favorite technique of parents and teachers, and we've become so conditioned by its use from early childhood that when we are praised, we automatically get ready for the shock, the reproof. Rather than functioning as a bridge between people, praise may actually put distance between them. In a society that fills our daily lives with so many contacts, we need to find ways to establish distance, psychological elbow room between ourselves and others. Praise is one of the most effective simply because when we evaluate people, we are not likely to gain emotional proximity to them. See for yourself if praise does not tend to hold off, to separate, while other behaviors like listening tend to include, to embrace. Rather than opening the way to further contact, praise may be a way of terminating it. Think how often we use praise as a sign that a conversation or interview is over. It's good to talk with you means I've finished talking with you, and you're doing fine, keep up the good work, usually signals the end of a conversation. When praise matters. Praise also helps to keep patterns of relationships between people and organizations relatively stable, allowing hierarchies or structures to be maintained. How does praise work toward this end? Let's take as an example a problem-solving committee meeting that includes the executive vice president at one end of the hierarchy and a new junior assistant at the other. If the assistant comes up with the brightest and most useful idea, some way must be found to accept it without lowering the status of the vice president in the eyes of the group, thereby threatening the group's stability. Intuitively, the vice president may say to the young assistant, "That's a very good idea. We can use that." The not-so-simple act of praise has resolved the situation nicely. Status has been maintained, because, as we remember, praise is a way of claiming status. The young assistant has been reminded of his place in the hierarchy, and the group is restored to comfortable equilibrium. In this situation and others like it, praise is a lubricant that helps keep our human relationships in good working order. The fundamental issue with praise has to do with its credibility, which is eroded because it is used for so many purposes other than simply expressing appreciation. But on those all too infrequent occasions when it is believable, for example, when we read a letter written to a third party in which the reader speaks highly of us, not knowing that we will ever see the letter, praise is welcome indeed. And that was Chapter 12 of Management of the Absurd by Richard Farson, and that ends Part 3. Starting on Saturday, we will be on Part 4, The Politics of Management, and I will be reading Chapter 13, Every Act is a Political Act. And I will be going ahead and making comments on the previous chapters on my blog, my Storytime blog, at www.ronaldhardgrove.blogspot.com. So until Saturday, thank you for joining me. Have a great day.